Welcome to another episode of Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson. This is my son, Edwyn, and we're just going to shake it up a little bit, talking about life and sports, just an intergenerational debate and conversation. How you doing today, son?
I'm fine, Daddy. How are you?
Good. It's a little chilly, but we got a lot to talk about, particularly with the NBA All-Star Weekend. But before we get to that, I know you didn't watch a minute of it. I didn't watch a minute of the Winter Olympics, but I always want to give props to people, particularly the black folks who's going to be like Issa Rae. I'm always rooting for the black people.
Yeah.
Black people participating in anything. I want to give a shout out to Alana Myers-Taylor. If you don't know her, she won the bronze in the two-woman bobsled, making her the most decorated African-American athlete ever in the Winter Olympics. This was her fifth medal, which put her past speed skater Shawnee Davis. I remember Shawnee Davis from back in the day. It was great to see a young brother in speed skating, but now we want to give props to Alana Myers-Taylor, who came out of the Winter Olympics as the most decorated black female athletes ever. So you go, sisters, show the magic on the snow and on the ice. But the big story this weekend was the All-Star Weekend. And I'm going to give people a little context in terms of why this was big for us. For those of you who don't know, I covered sports for many, many years and primarily covered the NBA during the Bird Magic era. So when Edwyn was small, I mean, he was immersed in NBA. Didn't necessarily know what it was at the time, but ended up, we went to many All-Star games. There was always games on television. So what was it like growing up and being small? What is your first recollection of the NBA? What was it like growing up knowing I was out and about covering this crazy sport, traveling, associating with all these guys? When did it start to hit for you that, whoa, this was kind of something big?
I think it hit me around, I would say, 4th or 5th grade, because again, I do remember you taking me to the Garden to the Knicks games. I remember that. Now, again, I didn't know anything about basketball, sports. All I knew is we were in the seats, we were up the stands. I could see the lights, the music, the court. Didn't really recognize players, but I think as I got older, around 10, 11 years old, maybe a little younger than that, maybe let's say 8, 9, I really realized, okay, this is a big deal what my father is doing, even if I'm not into it exactly, which I wasn't into sports at that time, but I knew it was big, especially seeing you on television.
You were so small. We used to take you and your mom and I used to take you to games. We didn't have to get a seat for you. And our seat had a little wall in front of us. You used to take your toys and play there on the ground while the game was going on. And I remember when you finally got big enough that we had to decide which one of us was going to take you to the game. So yeah, you were immersed into. Your sister was too, but she was mainly there for the cotton candy. She was there for the concessions as opposed to the game. And I know you really enjoyed it. I know you don't remember this. One time we had courtside seats on the end line, and you were still a toddler. You were kind of crawling around. But the first time those players came barreling down on a fast break, and your mom saw how big and strong and fast they were coming, she was like, oh, hell no, we're getting out of here. So we got some other seats because she didn't want you to get run over while you were playing on the court, while they were playing on the court. So when did the NBA become a thing for you? What are your recollections of who were the stars when you were growing up and when you were starting to be cognizant and to start to like the NBA?
The NBA became a thing for me in 5th grade. That's when I got into basketball. And at that time, I was still swimming. I was still playing soccer too. But I just got into basketball in 5th grade. And the first player I really got into, well, 2 players I say, were LeBron, Vince Carter, Shaq, Allen Iverson, Paul Pierce. Didn't really like Kobe at the time, but I knew how great he was. Tracy McGrady. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, so your cognizant thinking is like right after the Jordan era. Jordan's still playing. I think Bird and Magic were still playing. Charles Barkley was still playing, but this new wave of players was coming up, and those were the ones, especially LeBron. I mean, he was relatively new. Tracy McGrady. Vince Carter was a little older, but he was a slam dunk champion. I mean, he was probably the best dunker of his era. So you were seeing the next wave after the Bird Magic era, which really changed the league, which made the NBA a thing nationally. You had the black player in Magic, the white player in Bird. Before that, you may not know this, a lot of folks didn't like the NBA. They thought it was getting too black. They thought that there was too much, playground ball. But Bird and Magic really changed that. And I think someone said it this weekend that they are probably, I think Charles said it, that they're the two most important figures when it comes to the NBA because they transformed the game and made it popular nationally, which also set the groundwork for players getting paid. People forget that a lot of the great players didn't make enough money to sustain themselves, to make that be their only job. So that was a big deal for them for me to be able to cover that era and for you to see it in real time. And we used to laugh about me being on television because a lot of times games would come on or historical games, and I would always say, well, I was at that game.
I was there for that, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, you said, Daddy, why don't we just pretend like you were at every game? You don't have to tell us you were there. So it was very cool. All right, and so let's talk about this All-Star weekend. Just as a top line, I think this was one of the best All-Star weekends I've seen in a long time. Maybe it was just because the league was celebrating its 75th anniversary, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what was your general impression of the weekend? Had some ups and downs, but I think generally this was the best All-Star weekend I've seen in a long time.
I would say it was the best All-Star game you've seen in a long time because it's the 75th anniversary. It was the 75th anniversary of the NBA. You saw 75 of the greatest players of all time come together just like they did in 1997 for the 50th anniversary. And again, I was alive for that. I was too young, but there were some players I watched that were a part of it. Some players I didn't watch. Some players I thought should have been a part of it that were not there. But that's the big part of it. I think that's the special part because if you just want to talk about the whole weekend itself, well, the dunk contest, and many people would agree with this. A few colleagues of yourself said too, this was the worst dunk contest in history, in NBA All-Star history.
It was the slam dunk contest.
Yes. Horrific. And that has always been my favorite event outside of the All-Star game. A lot of people, some people like the three-point contest, some people like the skills challenge, some people like the dunk contest. Three-point contest was better because, one, you had a center win that. Karl Anthony Towns won it. He's a center. He's the second tallest player to win it. Dirk was the first tallest at 7 foot, but he was a power forward. Karl Anthony Towns is 6'11", but he is a center and he won it. That was probably the biggest part of it too. And then, like I said, the skills challenge was fun also. Again, team Antetokounmpo, Team Giannis, his brothers, the Cavs. I forget the other players too, but I mean, that was fun also. They were better than the dunk contest. And I think just because every contender for the dunk contest missed on the first 2 to 3 attempts. It's one thing if you miss on the first attempt or 1 or 2 players miss on the first 2, but every single round they missed on the first 2 attempts. And one time this other player, I think he played for the Pacers. The only other name I know is Obi Toppin because he plays for the Knicks, but one time you gave him 4 to 5 attempts. I'm like, how many attempts did you get it? 4 to 5 times before you get your dunk. Now, the only creative thing was dunking in Timberlands and boots. That's never been done before. Well, in the NBA, it hasn't been done before. But you missed on the first 2 to 3 attempts. So at that point, it's like, okay, you're going to give some of these guys 9s or 8s. And, one dunk might have been a 7.5. But nobody really got any 10s because y'all missed on the first attempt, you missed on the second attempt, and the dunks were soft that day. You didn't.
I mean, even the judges were bored. I mean, it was nobody was having a good time during the slam dunk contest. And I know you hate to make changes based on 1 year. You want to see something evolve over time, but there's no question to me that the 3-point contest is now the highlight of Saturday. And let me tell you why. I mean, the game has evolved that way, right? I mean, the game used to be more dominated by big people, big men. And so the dunk was a thing. Plus you had whether it's Dominique Wilkins, you had Michael Jordan, obviously, you had Vince Carter. I mean, you had cats, obviously Dr. J early on. You had legends. You had the greatest players in the sport participate in it. Vince Carter. You had the top A-list guys participating, and it was a thing. So that stopped a while back because players didn't want to get hurt. The superstars were making so much money, so they stopped participating in the slam dunk contest, and then they kept drilling down to where people are like, who is this again? And which team do they play for? And so many dunks have been done. It's hard to do something new. I get the format where they wanted to give people more time to do a dunk, but if you miss 3 in a row, you might as well sit down, as far as I'm concerned. And in terms of the three-point contest, that's where the game has evolved. It's a shooting game now. And with the way the format works, I love it, the way they've set up the money rack. They've always had the money ball. They've got, you could, I guess, move the money rack around to where you want it to be. And because it evolves over a certain period of time, if you got these scores, there's much more tension. The score to beat. You know what you got, and there's a lot more strategy and a lot more pressure because players know they've got to beat a certain score. They may get down to that last rack, and they may have to make all 5, and everybody knows they got to make all 5. So to me, they've got to really give serious consideration to making the three-point shot the highlight of Saturday night, and having a big man win it is great. And I think with a lot of people, that for big men to win it is unusual, but it's also if you can shoot, if they can shoot, there's less wear and tear on them during the contest. I think what you see with the little guys is that because they have to jump on every shot, they get tired. And the big, you saw, Cat was just like, he was just getting on his toes. I mean, he didn't have to shoot. When Larry Bird won this three-point contest, it was the same thing. It was 6'9", 6'10".
6'10".
Yeah. I mean, the big men, if they can shoot, have an advantage because over the course of the rounds, they don't get as fatigued as the little man. So I think the three-point shot now is the highlight. It's more fun. It's got the music. You got all the pressure, and that the slam dunk was just a downer. And I didn't even mind. I liked some of the extra things they threw in there. It was like appetizers and little extra games just to get more people, more of the players, get WNBA players involved. And so what did you think of the celebrity game? Did you watch that?
I did watch it, and again, it was exciting having Myles Garrett there, Cleveland Brown, being in Cleveland. First of all, he had 3 dunks. I think that's the most dunks that's ever been made in a celebrity game. And again, I don't remember everybody because you had celebrities that. My question are they really celebrities? Because you've had people that you've never heard of. You had a rapper from Puerto Rico. You had people, with all due respect, y'all are just making titles up at this point. Yes, you had Myles Garrett, you had Tiffany Haddish. You had former Cavaliers players and Daniel Boobie Gibson, Anderson Varejao. Okay, cool. But you had some, and then Machine Gun Kelly. Okay, he's from Cleveland. Okay, cool. But you had multiple players, and then you had the girl for the Harlem Globetrotters. May not have known her name, but okay, that title, that's fine. That's basketball. Okay. But there were there were celebrities who I've never heard of. Are they really celebrities, or are you just coming up because we've had games in the past where you had Snoop Dogg, you had Ice Cube, Justin Timberlake, Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, you've had Tracy McGrady, Muggsy Bogues, Dominique, the list goes on of, people, celebrities, you actually know who they are, but you probably had 4 to 5 celebrities that you know. Other than that, so, it was okay. It was okay. I did watch it,
That's like the slam dunk contest. The definition of the dunker, the definition of celebrity has been dampened down a bit. So, we're in that era when I guess if you have a certain number of Instagram followers, that makes you a celebrity. So it was fun. Nobody got hurt, and we'll move on. So let's talk about Sunday, the All-Star game. As you know, I haven't watched it for a while. They've really been struggling trying to make it relevant again. It used to be East versus West. And I know this is kind of old school talking, but there seemed to be more pride in winning. And for a long time, it became like a bad practice. I mean, it was just a bad practice where Nobody wanted to defend anybody. Nobody wanted to bump into anybody. And it was just the opposite of what the NBA game was. So they've tried to tweak the format. They created Team Durant and Team LeBron, so they don't have East versus West. I love it how they've incorporated the charities and that the winning teams get to donate money to charities. I still have no clue what that formula was in terms of which. It didn't even matter. I don't care. It's just like, okay, y'all trying something. It was kind of cool at the end, but the first half to me was kind of a bore again. Just kind of letting folks out there and getting people some playing time. I remember Charles Barkley once told me that the reason he enjoyed the All-Star game was because you're finally on the floor with four other guys who see the game the same way you do. When you play on a regular team and you're the superstar, yes, your teammates are good, but they're not as good as you, and they don't see things the way you see them. That's why you're the superstar. What made the All-Star game so exciting was you have 3 or 4 cats coming down on a fast break, and you had, 5-time All-Star over here, you had 10-time All-Star over there, and Magic and those guys could go any direction, and you knew they were going to get a great play because everybody was on the same page. So that got lost a little bit. I think before we talk about the second half, let's talk about halftime and the 75 greatest players. I mean, you saw me and we were texting about it. I thought it was a great halftime. It was great for me to see those players, a lot of whom I covered, from George Gervin and many others, probably most of them I covered, given that I didn't count the 75, but I probably covered going back to a Julius Erving who was playing when I started covering, and all the way up through Jordan when I really stopped covering the NBA. So I think I got most of them. And for the most part, I didn't have a problem with the 75 team. I wondered about a couple of them. When I saw Damon Leonard, I was like, okay, all right, big guy.
So the one person in question for me, I doubted, was Anthony Davis.
Well, that was the other one that I was.
That one right there. Now, Russell Westbrook was perfect because you're talking about a 6'3" guard who out-rebounds bigs and centers. And then you're talking about passing Oscar Robertson for the triple-doubles. Mm-hmm. So that right there was perfect. Damian Lillard, he is debatable, but I'm glad he was on it too because he was an underappreciated, underrated player for such a long time, and he's worked extremely hard in Portland now, being alone with CJ McCollum going too. So I do like the fact that he was on it. I could understand you debating should he be there. That I can understand. However, Tracy, and this goes back to that versus highlight battle of Allen Iverson versus Tracy McGrady. Allen Iverson said there are not 75 players better than you. Now, again, there are 75 of them, a certain amount of them who are better than him, but you're talking about a 7-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ at 6'8", and Kobe said he was the hardest player to defend. So, yeah, I had an issue with him not being there. You do have to question his cousin not being there too. Vince Carter being the greatest dunker.
I know that was one that I wondered that because of Vince's longevity, his contribution to the game. I also, was touched by players that I covered who passed on, Wes Unseld and Moses Malone in particular. Moses Malone, like in your conversation about greatest centers of all time, and you forget that those men are gone. So seeing them was emotional. It was like, oh yeah. And by the time they do it again, there will be people who drop off. I want to give props to all the great players who played during the early years that don't get an opportunity to get their light. And so what I really liked about this was that it was bringing together players from different generations with those who are playing today, because I also think that we went through a period when players didn't care about the ones who came before them. They didn't know who Bob Lanier was. They didn't know who some of these cats were. So to see the intermingling of today's players and these greats, I think was very heartening, and to see them to give them props as they were doing the introductions and after the introductions. I think it was great for this generation of players to have been able to shake the hands of the players who laid the foundation for them to get paid millions and millions of dollars. So that was That was a point for me too. Is looking at the intergenerational play and thinking this was important, because you know how much I love history. You know how much I think history is important, not just in sports but in life. History is the foundation of everything we do, and if we don't acknowledge it, we repeat some of the bad things that happen. So I was glad to see a lot of the young players are intermingling with the new ones, and it was funny. You saw people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar smiling. He was like having a great time. They looked like they were having a great time. You didn't see Kareem smile a lot when he played, but Kareem was smiling. And of course, when they introduced the guys who weren't there and they were on the white screen, Walt Frazier was the only one without the jacket. He was.
He was.
You knew Walt Frazier was going to wear his own jacket. He wasn't going to wear that boring blue blazer. So I cracked up when I saw Clyde Frazier in his own jacket. So of course, that would be the one person who would pick their own jacket. So maybe they should just let Clyde style everybody's jacket next time. So,
they could. I mean, surprisingly, because I watched something even before that on TNT. There was this, I guess he was an Italian designer. He designed the jackets, the leather jackets for the 50 when they did the 50 greatest players of all time in '97. He designed that. So I'm not sure if it was the same person who did it for those jackets too. And again, the jackets, they weren't bad. They weren't spectacular.
No, they were cool.
The leather
they
jackets,
were classy. They were classy.
The leather jackets obviously were a whole lot better with just the different colors.
Right.
But one thing I will say too is when you just talked about the younger players paying homage and to those who came before them so they can get paid millions of dollars. Because again, from what I've seen, I've always seen those younger players pay the homage too. I've never seen them not recognize them. I mean, you had Giannis a part of it. Giannis was part of that. Giannis is 27 years old. And he's already one of the 75 greatest players. Now, is it because he won the championship last year? Obviously, he is a player that changed the game at 6'11", having the skill set that he has to just dribble, get to the basket, unstoppable, going downhill. And then, again, Shaq was the youngest player, too. When they did it, there's a 50. He just wasn't there. He wasn't in attendance because he broke his leg. But that was, and again, I guess at that point in time, you guys realized, I didn't see it. He was one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant player of all time outside between him and Wilt. And again, Wilt was still alive at that time, too. Right. So that was like a big thing also because you had a couple of more. I mean, you had a lot of deceased players, obviously, that played way early on that, so they were all day deceased. But I mean, just again, Kobe, again, Elgin Baylor passed a couple of months ago too. I was gonna say earlier, you said already, I was gonna say Moses Malone too. So I mean, it was just a lot of greatness. Again, some players I knew of, some I didn't know of. Some of those older players, not to disrespect what they did to the game, but I do question should they have been on there opposed to other players. And again, I don't know if every player that played in the 50s and 60s when it was black and white, I don't know if all of them, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but I do question that. Of course, Bill Russell, yes, 11 championships, of course, he's going to be there.
Bob Cousy's go all
Bob Cousy, Bob McAdoo,
Right. All right, well, let's talk about the second half. Did we forget how good Steph Curry was? Did Steph Curry say, wait, did y'all forget about me? I mean, he turned that third quarter into something that we hadn't seen since Michael Jordan was shrugging, and he found his zone. I mean, and he took the zone out about 3 or 4 zip codes last night to hit 16 three-pointers. Well, we knew he was MVP before they even announced it, but did we forget how good Steph Curry was? And Trey tried to hang with him, but even Trey was like, I can't do this.
Trey is a shooter. He's a good shooter. He is not Steph. He's not Steph. He's not Clay. He's not Bird. He's not Dirk. None of them. He's good. Again, did we forget? No, I don't think we did, because I know I didn't. I'm pretty sure all the other players and fans didn't forget too. But once you texted me saying Steph, it's like, okay, I know he's going to heat up, but to heat up like that, now towards the end, he started hitting bricks, but just those shots he still hit right then and there. Oh no, of course he was going to win MVP. You wanted LeBron to win it because it's back home, back in Cleveland, and he did hit the game winner, so at least he did that too, so you give him that credit also. But Steph hitting those shots definitely solidified it, even though the other Team Durant, is still not too far behind. But no, they did win because, or at least had a lead. Because again, it was tied too. They ended up catching up, and that's how LeBron had to hit that game winner too. But no, Steph is the greatest shooter of all time. That's why.
Okay, greatest shooter of all time. All right. Okay, greater than Ray Allen, greater than Bird.
Okay, hold on, because you're saying it like that. I know.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, okay.
No, but I'm just saying, if he passed statistically not too long ago, you're passing Ray Allen. You already passed Reggie Miller. You're passing Ray Allen for most threes made, and he's, first of all, statistically, he's done that. He's passed the stats of theirs even when I was in college. So even before this year, he was already considered the greatest shooter of all time. But then he did that too on top of that. So I know you're trying to add on to that. It shouldn't be a surprise. Yes, he's the greatest shooter of all time. Okay. He's better than Reggie Miller. He's better than Ray Allen. He's better than Larry Bird.
All right, I go with you on that. I'll let you have it. You mentioned it earlier that LeBron hit the game winner. It was a great shot. It was over 1.5 defenders. Somebody else was coming over. It was at the buzzer. Was this LeBron's last big shot opportunity? I mean, we know he's closing in. He's at the twilight of his career. We know that he is kind of being usurped by Giannis. It's Giannis's league now. All respect to LeBron. Part of the conversation about greatest ever with Jordan, and I think Skip Bayless, a commentator, said that Michael Jordan is still the best because LeBron is a poor free throw shooter, a relatively poor free throw shooter, and you get no argument from me on that. But was this LeBron's last big shot? Given where the Lakers are, given where he is, was this really the last moment to say, hey, look, enjoy this? He was the greatest of an era, but that was really his last big shot.
I don't think it is. And the reason why I don't think it is because, one, and I said this last year too, last year was LeBron's last really good year to play at a high level. That is correct. But do I see LeBron? So LeBron's 37 years old. He's in great shape. Can he play for another 2 years? Yes. Can he hit another game winner in some games? Yes, I do think he can. You're talking about the moment of being in Cleveland, so I understand that. LeBron said he wants to play with his son. He wants to play with Bron. So, what? He's going to be eligible for the draft in 2023, I believe? 23 or 24?
Okay.
So, and that means he's that confident he's going to make it to the league too, on top of that. And I've seen a few highlights of him, haven't watched full games or anything. I will say he is good. But that's another motivation too, on top of it, to play longer too. So I think he could definitely hit some game winners, but you're talking about playing at a high level.
Right.
Those days are done. And that is why the Lakers are ninth in the West, because it's not on him anymore. Charles Barkley, your friend, said last year till now, in order for the Lakers to be good again, Anthony Davis, he has to be healthy, he has to be available, and then he has to play. He has to play good. He has to be one of the top 5 players in the league, and he's not that. He's not that. So this is why they are ninth. It's not because of Russell Westbrook, and I keep forgetting the coach. I forget the coach's name, but it's not because of them. You get all these old players together with LeBron and AD, the youngest player. No, yes, you knew how Russell Westbrook plays. And you knew Carmelo's going to have glimpses where early in the year he scores 32 points or hits these shots. But no, if Anthony Davis is not available, that is why, yes, they're ninth. And I hope they're able to get back in, because it's hard with, again, Minnesota being 7, Dallas being wherever they are, Memphis being 3. Some of these teams just now climbing up. But no, but just going back to LeBron, I don't think this is the last big shot of his career. But at the same time, regular season games compared to a playoff game winner, those are two different things. So I don't know about the playoff game winner shots. That I'm not sure about.
Yeah, we got about a minute left before we wrap up, and I'll just say this: I do think it was his last big shot on a big stage. He's going to hit some game winners, of course, because that's what he does. And he could play, and I hope he does play another 3, 4, 5 years as long as he wants to play. But savor that moment last night in terms of LeBron hitting a big shot on a big stage. When I say big stage, I mean to win a playoff series and even a championship. I think those days are done, like you said. So savor that moment last night is, for me, LeBron's last big shot on a big stage. So other than the Lakers, what second half story should NBA fans be looking out for in terms of leading into the playoffs and the potential championship?
You want to look at Phoenix just because Chris Paul is going to be out for a couple weeks. They can definitely stay within the top 5, even the top 3 in the West. But they're not going to keep the first seed. Golden State will probably take over that because especially when Draymond comes back too, they are looking to get another championship and they just might get it. I think it's a 95% chance Golden State wins the championship this year. Definitely the West is going to come between Golden State and Phoenix. But because again, as good as Memphis or John Morant, they don't have that playoff experience. Well, I think they lost in the first round last year. They don't have that playoff experience yet, but you still have to look at them. Again, Denver, they're good. Denver's going to do something. Utah's going to do something. Dallas probably going to be out in the first round. Minnesota probably going to be out in the first round.
So in the West, you've got Phoenix and Golden State. That's your Western Conference Finals.
Yes.
Who are your Eastern Conference Finals? I'll give you mine. Mine are Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Those are the two that at least I want to see in the Eastern Conference Finals. What about you?
Most likely it will come down to those two because whenever Kevin Durant comes back, you can't win playoff. Even with him, you just cannot win the playoffs if one of your best players is only playing away games. You still have to have the home court advantage, and you have to win at home, especially too. If Kyrie's only playing away, there's no way that they could even get to the conference championship. Especially too, don't get me wrong, you have Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons does play, of course he's gonna want to feed him and stuff, and he's gonna probably hit a few shots under the basket too, but that's not enough though.
Yeah, the Nets need to worry about fixing this Nets for next season. They don't know what they got in Ben Simmons. Maybe the mandates will be also Kevin Durant or Kyrie will be able to play more, but they're a mess right now, and so they just need to get it together, see if they can, what they can do in the playoffs. But I do not think they're going to be a serious contender. So, young man, I enjoyed it as always. Glad we had a great All-Star game to talk about. We have a lot going on in the next few months. We got USFL, we got the Masters golf tournament. We talk a little bit about Tiger and his legacy, but most of all, we got the NBA second half of the season and the NBA playoffs, and we have life as we continue to see what's going on in the world. We've got elections, we've got a lot of stuff going on locally, and just be mindful, everybody, of keeping life in perspective, of doing your research, and being passionate about the possibilities, the obstacles, as well as the opportunities. So, Edwyn, thank you again. We're going to chop it up in a few days. And until then, everybody, keep balling. See ya.
Bye, everybody. See ya.